Well, hello there, fellow Earthlings. Whether you're listening to this while stuck in traffic, pretending to work from home, or hiding in your car in the Target parking lot because you need 5 minutes of peace before dealing with, well, life, I've got a story for you today. Now picture this. Somewhere in the vast expanse of space, there's an organization called the Galactic Health Organization. Think of it as the CDC, but with more tentacles, better funding, and significantly less bureaucratic red tape. Their job? Keep every species in the galaxy alive, and preferably in one piece. Last month, they issued their first ever Level 9 advisory for a single species. Not for a pandemic, not for a war, not even for that thing we do where we put pineapple on pizza, though I'm told that's still under review. No, the GHO is officially, genuinely, pants-sweatingly terrified of human extreme sports. That's right, folks. While we're over here thinking we're just having a good time, the rest of the galaxy is watching us like we're a nature documentary gone horribly wrong. And honestly, they might have a point. So grab your favorite beverage, preferably something that won't require a helmet to consume. And let's dive into why the phrase, "hold my beer," is now classified as a Class 3 warning in 17 different galactic languages. Let me paint you a picture of the Galactic Health Organization. Imagine the most uptight, safety-obsessed helicopter parent you've ever met. Now give them a PhD in xenobiology, a budget that makes NASA look like a lemonade stand, and the responsibility for keeping track of over 3,000 different species across the galaxy. Their headquarters, and yes, they have a headquarters, complete with a gift shop that sells Galaxy's One Safety Inspector mugs, sits on a space station that's basically the cosmic equivalent of a really, really expensive urgent care clinic. These are beings who issue safety warnings for things like excessive happiness and recreational breathing. Not kidding. The Zephrons from Alpha Centauri got a formal citation last year because their traditional celebration dance was deemed unnecessarily exuberant. So when these people, and I use the term people loosely since half of them look like they were designed by someone who'd never seen a person but had it described to them by someone who was really bad at charades, when these beings start freaking out about human behavior, you know we've really done something special. And what pushed us to the top of their species most likely to Darwin award themselves into extinction list? Well, let me tell you about their annual risk assessment. Every year, the GHO publishes what they call the Galactic Risk Index. It's basically a report card for the entire galaxy, rating species on their likelihood to accidentally wipe themselves out before lunch. For context, the Blorgons of Kepler 442b made the list last year because they invented a sport called quantum juggling, which has a 23% chance of accidentally creating a black hole. They ranked 47th. The crystalline entities of Vega Prime got flagged because their idea of fun involves reshaping their molecular structure for aesthetic purposes. Sometimes they forget how to change back. They ranked 31st. Humans. We didn't just make the list. We didn't just crack the top 10. We shot straight to number 1 with a bullet, or more accurately, with a wingsuit and a complete disregard for the laws of physics. The report's executive summary, and I'm reading this verbatim, states, "Humans appear to have confused survival instinct with optional software upgrade." But here's where it gets really good. The GHO didn't just rank us number 1. They created an entirely new category just for us. We are now the proud holders of the "what the hell are they thinking" classification. We're not just dangerous to ourselves, folks. According to the report, we're dangerous to the very concept of self-preservation across the galaxy. Apparently, 3 other species have started developing extreme sports after watching our highlight reels. The GHO is calling it human influence syndrome, and they're treating it like a contagious disease. Now, you might be wondering, what exactly are we doing that has the galaxy's top safety experts questioning their life choices? Well, the GHO was kind enough to provide us with their top 7 human activities that violate the basic principles of continued existence. Number 7, parkour. The GHO's official description reads, and I quote, "Humans have invented a method of transportation that treats every urban environment as an obstacle course designed by someone who clearly hates them. They sent an observer to watch a parkour competition in Paris. The poor guy, a tentacled wisdom keeper from the Andromeda spiral, filed a report that was just the word "why" written 847 times in increasingly frantic handwriting. Number 6. Ice climbing. Because apparently regular climbing wasn't terrifying enough, so we decided to do it on frozen waterfalls with pointy metal things in sub-Saharan temperatures. The GHO's risk assessment team calculated the danger level, and their computer literally printed out a frowny face emoji. Number 5. Base jumping. The report notes that humans have taken the natural fear of heights, something that keeps most species alive, and turned it into a recreational activity. One GHO analyst was quoted as saying, "It's like they've weaponized gravity against themselves." Number 4. Volcano boarding. Yes, that's a real thing. Yes, it involves sliding down an active volcano on what is essentially a cafeteria tray. The GHO sent a team to observe this phenomenon in Nicaragua. Their official report was a single page with a photo of the volcano and the words "Nope" written in 17 different languages. Number 3. Free solo climbing. This is where we take climbing, already a questionable life choice according to most of the galaxy, and remove all safety equipment. The GHO's psychological evaluation team spent 6 months trying to understand the mindset required for this activity. 3 of them are still in therapy. Number 2. Wingsuit flying. Humans looked at birds, looked at cliffs, and thought, you know what, I bet I could do that with a bedsheet and a prayer. The GHO's physics department ran the calculations and concluded that wingsuit flying violates at least 4 laws of physics and possibly 1 law of common sense that they didn't know existed. And number 1? Number 1 is special, folks. Number 1. The Cooper's Hill cheese rolling in wake. Let me explain this for our galactic audience. Once a year, in Gloucestershire, England, humans gather on a hill so steep it requires its own safety warning. They then release a wheel of cheese, yes, cheese, down this hill. And then dozens of humans chase after it. Not for food, not for survival, not because the cheese contains the cure for cancer. They do it for fun. And a trophy that, according to the GHO's cultural analysis team, has no monetary value and serves no practical purpose. The GHO sent their most experienced field researcher to observe this event. Dr. Zyksthala, a being who had previously studied the mating rituals of plasma-based life forms and the recreational habits of sentient gas clouds, filed a report that simply read, "I have seen the face of madness, and it is chasing dairy products down a hill." But here's the kicker, and this is where the GHO really started to panic. Dr. Zyksthala signed up for next year's event. Now, the GHO isn't just a bunch of cosmic worrywarts, they're problem solvers. So when faced with the human problem, they did what any reasonable galactic health organization would do. They tried to fix us. Their first attempt was what they called the Safer Alternatives Initiative. The idea was simple: introduce humans to less dangerous recreational activities that would satisfy our apparent need for excitement without the whole flirting with death component. They started with competitive knitting. Within 6 months, humans had invented extreme knitting. This involved knitting while bungee jumping, knitting on mountain peaks, and something called yarn bombing that the GHO initially mistook for an actual terrorist threat. Next, they tried meditation. Surely, they thought, humans could find peace in quiet contemplation. We invented extreme meditation, meditation while skydiving, meditation in shark cages. One particularly ambitious group started a meditation retreat on an active volcano. The GHO's report noted that the humans achieved unprecedented levels of inner peace right up until the moment they had to evacuate due to an eruption. The GHO then tried to introduce us to zero-gravity sports, thinking that the novelty of weightlessness would be exciting enough to satisfy our thrill-seeking nature without the danger. We invented zero-G rugby. The International Space Station is still finding pieces of the equipment. But the final straw, the moment the GHO realized they were dealing with something beyond their understanding, came when they tried to ban bungee cords. Did the humans' response? Orbital bungee jumping, using the Earth's gravitational field as the bungee cord. The GHO's emergency response team is still trying to figure out how we managed to make that work without violating several fundamental laws of physics. Now at this point you might be wondering, as the GHO certainly was, why humans do this to themselves. Are we suicidal? Are we stupid? Are we just really, really bored? The GOJ commissioned a comprehensive psychological study. They brought in the galaxy's top experts in behavioral analysis, evolutionary psychology, and what they diplomatically termed species-specific cognitive anomalies. Dr. Melandra, a renowned psychologist from the Wisdom Collective of Tau Ceti, spent 3 years studying human extreme sports enthusiasts. Her preliminary findings were illuminating. Humans, she wrote, appear to have evolved a neurochemical reward system that treats mortal danger as a recreational drug. When faced with life-threatening situations, their brains release a cocktail of chemicals that produces what they describe as the best feeling ever. She continued, it's as if their entire species has developed an addiction to their own survival instincts. But here's where it gets really interesting. Dr. Melandrick discovered that this isn't just about individual thrill-seeking. It's cultural. Humans don't just tolerate extreme behavior. They celebrate it. They make movies about it. They give awards for it. They create entire industries around it. The study found that humans have something called aspirational risk-taking. We don't just want to survive dangerous situations. We want to do it with style. We want to do it better than the last guy. We want to do it in ways that make other humans say, hold my beer and watch this. And that phrase, hold my beer, has become something of a legend in galactic psychology circles. It's now studied as the most efficient method ever discovered for converting rational thought into spectacular failure. But perhaps the most disturbing finding from the GHO's perspective was this. Humans don't see extreme sports as dangerous. We see them as Tuesday. The report noted that humans regularly engage in activities that would be considered acts of war on most civilized worlds, and we call it weekend plans. Now here's where the story takes a turn that even I didn't see coming. The GHO's concern isn't just about humans hurting themselves. It's about what we're teaching the rest of the galaxy. Remember Dr. Zaxathala, the researcher who signed up for cheese rolling? Well, it turns out he wasn't the only one. The GHO has documented what they're calling human influence syndrome, a condition where other species start adopting human-style extreme sports. The crystalline entities of Vega Prime, who I mentioned earlier, have started something called molecular extreme sports. They're deliberately destabilizing their atomic structure for fun. 3 of them have accidentally turned into sentient gas clouds. They consider this a feature, not a bug. The aquatic philosophers of Kepler 438b have invented philosophical cliff diving. They leap from great heights while contemplating the meaning of existence. Their mortality rate has increased by 340%, but they report achieving unprecedented levels of enlightenment during the fall. Even the notoriously cautious hive mind of Proxima Centauri has started experimenting with what they call collective risk-taking. Last month, they decided to see what would happen if they all thought about jumping off a cliff at the same time. The resulting psychic feedback loop created a new form of mathematics that the GHO is still trying to understand. But the most disturbing case involves the peaceful monks of Serenity Prime. These beings had achieved perfect harmony with the universe. They had eliminated war, poverty, and even mild disagreement from their society. They were the galaxy's poster children for enlightened civilization. Then they discovered human YouTube videos. Within 6 months, they had invented extreme enlightenment. They now achieve spiritual transcendence by jumping out of spacecraft without life support. Their philosophy is that true peace can only be found by facing the ultimate chaos. The GHO's report notes that their enlightenment levels have indeed increased dramatically. Unfortunately, so has their mortality rate. Faced with what they termed an unprecedented threat to galactic public safety, the GHO called an emergency summit. Representatives from over 500 species gathered on the neutral world of Bureaucratia Prime to address what the agenda diplomatically referred to as the human problem. The summit lasted for 3 standard galactic weeks. The proceedings, which I've managed to obtain through what I'll diplomatically call journalistic channels, make for fascinating reading. The opening statement, delivered by GO Director General Quixnaela, began, "Fellow beings, we are gathered here today to address a crisis that threatens the very foundation of rational thought across the galaxy. A species has emerged that treats survival as optional and danger as entertainment. The tentacled wisdom keepers of Andromeda proposed a complete quarantine of the Sol system. Contain the madness," their representative argued, "before it spreads further." The hive mind of Proxima Centauri, this was before their own extreme sports phase, suggested a more diplomatic approach. "Perhaps we could reason with them, explain the mathematical probability of their continued existence." The representative from the peaceful monks of Serenity Prime, again, this was before their extreme enlightenment phase, suggested meditation therapy. "Surely," they said, "these humans simply need to find inner peace." Little did they know they'd be bungee jumping off space stations within the year. But the most dramatic moment came when the crystalline entities proposed what they called the final solution. Not as ominous as it sounds. They just wanted to encase the entire solar system in a protective crystal shell for everyone's safety. The debate raged for days. Some species wanted to study us like a fascinating but dangerous virus. Others wanted to adopt us as the galaxy's official entertainment. A few suggested we might be useful in warfare, though they quickly retracted that idea when someone pointed out that humans would probably find a way to make war more dangerous than it already was. The summit might have gone on forever, but it was interrupted by breaking news. Humans had just invented something called space surfing, riding solar wind on modified spacecraft hulls. The footage showed a human in a spacesuit standing on what appeared to be a glorified ironing board, surfing through an asteroid field while giving a thumbs up to the camera. The summit ended abruptly. Half the delegates fainted. The other half immediately started taking notes. Now, here's where our story takes an unexpected turn. The GHO's attempts to contain human influence had exactly the opposite effect they intended. You see, by declaring humans a galactic health hazard, they had inadvertently made us the most interesting species in the galaxy. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know what we were doing and why we were doing it. Tourism to Earth increased by 3,000%. Alien anthropologists started showing up at extreme sports events with clipboards and confused expressions. The Running of the Bulls in Pamplona now has a dedicated Galactic Observer section, complete with translation services and medical staff trained in 17 different alien physiologies. The X Games added an interspecies division. The first alien competitor was a gelatinous blob from the Slime Nebula who attempted skateboarding. The results were messy, but they scored surprisingly well on style points. Even more surprisingly, some aliens turned out to be naturally gifted at human extreme sports. The insectoid hive workers of Kepler 442b, with their natural ability to stick to any surface, dominated the rock climbing competitions. The gaseous entities of the Horsehead Nebula discovered they could wingsuit fly without the wingsuit, which the judges ruled was either cheating or evolution in action. But perhaps the most significant development was the emergence of what sociologists are calling interspecies extreme sports. Events that no single species could have imagined, but that somehow make perfect sense when you combine human creativity with alien physiology. There's now a sport called quantum surfing, where humans ride probability waves generated by the crystalline entities. Telepathic parkour, where the hive minds create obstacle courses that exist only in shared consciousness. And something called gravity dancing, which involves humans and the weightless poets of Tau Ceti creating art by manipulating gravitational fields while in free fall. The GHO's latest report notes that these activities are statistically impossible, physically improbable, and absolutely magnificent to watch. So where does this leave us? Well, the GHO has officially given up trying to make humans safer. Their latest policy statement reads, and I quote, "We have concluded that attempting to modify human behavior is like trying to teach a supernova to whisper. Theoretically possible, but likely to result in spectacular failure." Instead, they've created an entirely new department, the Bureau of Human Activity Monitoring and Damage Control. Their job isn't to stop us, it's to clean up after us and make sure we don't accidentally take the rest of the galaxy with us. But here's the really interesting part. The galaxy is better for it. The GHO's own statistics show that interspecies cooperation is at an all-time high. Apparently nothing brings different species together quite like watching humans do something that should be impossible and somehow make it look easy. The peaceful monks of Serenity Prime, now the moderately reckless monks of Serenity Prime, report that their new extreme enlightenment practices have led to breakthrough discoveries in consciousness research. The crystalline entities have developed new forms of art that exist in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Even the notoriously boring bureaucrats of Paperwork Prime have started experimenting with extreme filing, which is apparently exactly what it sounds like. The galaxy, it turns out, was getting a little too safe, a little too predictable, a little too boring. And then humans showed up and said, "Hold our beer." So what have we learned from all this? Well, according to the GHO's final report on human extreme sports, we've learned several important things. First, humans are apparently incapable of recognizing danger as anything other than a recreational opportunity. Second, this trait is highly contagious and should be considered a mimetic hazard. Third, despite all logic and probability, humans rarely actually die doing these activities. Their survival rate is so high that the GHO suspects we might have made some kind of deal with the universe itself. And fourth, the galaxy is a more interesting place with humans in it, even if it's also significantly more dangerous. But I think there's something deeper here, something that GHO's reports don't quite capture. Humans don't do extreme sports because we have a death wish. We do them because we have a life wish. We want to feel alive, to push boundaries, to see what's possible. We're the species that looked at the ocean and said, "I bet there's something on the other side." We looked at the sky and said, "I bet we could go there." We looked at a mountain and said, "I bet we could climb that." And when someone told us it was impossible, we said, "Hold my beer." That's not insanity. That's hope. That's curiosity. That's the fundamental human belief that there's always something more, something better, something worth reaching for, even if it means risking everything to get there. And maybe that's what the galaxy needed. Maybe they needed someone to show them that safety isn't the highest virtue, that sometimes the most important discoveries happen when you're willing to take a leap of faith. Literally, in our case. So what's next for human extreme sports? Well, if history is any guide, we're just getting started. The latest report suggests that humans are already working on interplanetary extreme sports. There's talk of surfing the rings of Saturn, base jumping from the moons of Jupiter, and something called solar wind sailing that the GHO has preemptively classified as absolutely not. But here's the thing. They're not trying to stop us anymore. They're just asking for advance notice so they can have the medical teams ready. The GHO's latest safety advisory simply reads, "If you're planning to do something that defies physics, please file a Form 27B at least 48 hours in advance. Include next of kin information and preferred method of memorial service." And you know what? I think that's progress. The galaxy has learned to live with us, and we've learned to live with the galaxy. We're still doing impossible things for fun, but now we're doing them with alien friends who are just as crazy as we are. The universe is a big, dangerous, wonderful place. And humans, we're the species that looked at all that danger and said, "Challenge accepted." So the next time someone asks you why humans do extreme sports, why we jump off cliffs and chase cheese down hills and surf solar winds, you can tell them this: because we're human. And being human means never accepting that something is impossible until you've tried it at least 3 times.
Preferably while someone films it for YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, if you've made it this far, you're clearly as fascinated by human insanity as the rest of the galaxy. So here's what I want you to do. First, smash that like button, and I mean really smash it. Pretend it's a cheese wheel and you're running down Cooper's Hill. The algorithm loves engagement, and honestly, after listening to this story, you've earned the right to be a little aggressive with your clicking. Second, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, because if humans are going to keep terrifying the galaxy with our recreational activities, you're going to want front row seats to the chaos. And third, this is the important one. I want to hear your stories. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's the most extreme thing you've ever done? What's the closest you've come to making the GHO's risk assessment list? Have you ever made an alien question their life choices? And if you are an alien listening to this, first, welcome to Earth's internet. Sorry about the ads. But second, tell us about your species' idea of extreme sports. What do you do for fun that would make humans say, okay, that's too dangerous? Because believe it or not, that bar does exist. It's just really, really high. Share this episode with your friends, your family, your coworkers, that person at the gym who's always talking about their latest adventure. Spread the word that humans are officially the galaxy's most entertaining health hazard. And remember, in a universe full of species that play it safe, be the one that makes the aliens take notes. Until next time, this has been your guide to galactic insanity. Stay curious, stay reckless, and whatever you do, don't let the GHO catch you having too much fun. Oh, and by the way, they're still trying to figure out how we made orbital bungee jumping work.